A quiet morning at Heartland hides a storm of emotions. The ranch, bathed in the soft glow of dawn, seems almost ordinary, but underneath the peaceful sky, every heartbeat, every rustle of the horses, carries the weight of anticipation. Because after years of heartbreak, after endless prayers whispered into the wind, one name breaks the silence: Ty Bordon. Not as a memory, not as a ghost, but alive. Back. The air trembles with possibility, and the walls of Heartland are about to witness a reunion that will shatter and heal in equal measure. Amy, Lindy, the whole family, they've lived in absence, in questions, in quiet despair. And now, the missing piece has returned. The morning at Heartland starts as it always does, yet everything feels different. Horses graze in the fields, their hooves brushing the earth softly, but there's a tension in the air, a subtle vibration that tells the world something monumental is about to unfold. Amy stands on the porch, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee. The sun casts soft, golden light across her face, highlighting the lines of worry and hope that time has drawn. She breathes in slowly, the wind brushing her hair, carrying scents of hay, earth, and distant pine. Her eyes drift across the pasture, searching for something her heart refuses to forget, something that has been absent for far too long. Years have passed since the last time Ty Bordon walked these fields. Life went on, yes, Lindy grew, the ranch continued its rhythm, the seasons spun endlessly, but the absence of Ty left a hollow space that no one could fill. Amy's mornings have been marked by small, quiet rituals of remembrance, a careful choreography of hope and grief. And yet today, something feels different. The subtle weight of expectation presses against her chest, almost like the world itself is holding its breath. Inside, Lindy moves with the innocent yet perceptive eyes of a child who has learned that some things are too fragile to question. She senses the hush in the air, a shift too small for adults to notice but large enough to stir her curiosity. Her gaze lingers on the barn, on the fences, on every familiar shadow. The missing rhythm of their family life hums in her ears like a distant song, waiting for the chorus to return. And then the story begins to unfold, layer by layer, revealing a truth that had been kept secret. Ty did not die. The world had been told otherwise, and the memory of that night had left scars deeper than anyone could see. Yet the reality was more complicated, more painful, and ultimately, more hopeful. After collapsing, Ty had faced a series of medical challenges that were grave, life-threatening, and beyond the knowledge of anyone outside a select circle. Doctors made a difficult decision to transfer him to a specialized facility, one far from home, where the fight for his life could be waged quietly, without the fragile balance of hope tipping into despair for his family. For years, Amy and Lindy lived under the weight of a loss they believed absolute, their grief an invisible tether connecting them to a man they feared they would never see again. Ty's days were filled with struggle. Tubes, monitors, the sterile smell of hospitals, each moment a battle for the simplest things: breath, movement, survival. Yet through it all, his mind clung to fragments of memory, the images of his family, the faces of the people who had built his world. He fought not just to live, but to return to the life that had been paused, a life that existed only in echoes in his absence. His determination grew quietly, invisibly, like roots spreading beneath frozen soil, and slowly, painstakingly, he began to regain strength. The turning point comes not with fanfare, but in subtle, human moments. Ty stands, first unsteadily, then with the resolve of someone who has faced death and chosen life. His body carries the story of pain, recovery, and endurance. Every scar, every line, every quiet breath speaks of battles fought in silence. He insists on one thing above all: returning home. No recovery would feel complete without the sight of Heartland, without the warmth of Amy's presence, without Lindy's laughter filling the air. Back at the ranch, the world continues its quiet rhythms, oblivious to the monumental moment approaching. Amy notices something first, a shift in the sound of tires on the gravel road, the subtle cadence that feels different from the everyday. She stops mid-step, her senses straining, her heart quickening in ways she can barely name. Every detail becomes vivid: dust motes catching the sun, the warmth of her mug, the gentle creak of the porch boards. Time slows, each second stretched with anticipation. And then he appears. Ty, not a memory, not a dream, but a man returned. Calluses line his hands, lines etch his face, quiet strength radiates from every movement. Amy's breath catches, an involuntary note that signals the magnitude of the moment. She runs, instinctive, unthinking, drawn by years of longing, grief, and hope. When she reaches him, the embrace is everything, the storm, the calm, the heartbreak, the healing, all condensed into one perfect, shattering moment. Lindy watches from the threshold, curiosity and innocence intertwined. The single word that slips from her lips, "Daddy," carries a universe in its syllables, hope, accusation, joy, and the pure immediacy of a child's love. She runs, arms outstretched, and Ty catches her as though gathering the pieces of a family scattered by time and circumstance. The connection is immediate, instinctive, a covenant of presence that promises to heal old wounds. The air at Heartland is now charged with a delicate tension, as if the ranch itself is exhaling after years of holding its breath. Amy's arms remain wrapped around Ty, her heartbeat hammering against the steady rhythm of his. Every second stretches, filled with unspoken words, old regrets, and the fragile joy of presence after long absence. The reunion is not loud, not dramatized with sweeping gestures or exaggerated emotion, it is raw, intimate, and profoundly human. It's a return measured in the weight of a hand on a shoulder, the tremor in a hug, the catch in a voice that had learned to live without what it now holds again. Lindy clings to Ty as though fear and hope collide in the most innocent way possible. Her small hands twist into the fabric of his shirt, seeking anchors in a world that had felt unmoored. She doesn't ask questions, doesn't voice the turmoil that years of absence might have invited, she simply expects restoration, as children do, and the act of expecting brings an almost sacred pressure to the moment. Ty lifts her, careful yet instinctual, the way a man who has faced mortality now understands the fragility of life and the sacredness of family. Her gaze meets his, searching for promises, for reassurance, for proof that the man she has imagined every night is real. From the porch, Amy watches, her face a canvas of disbelief, relief, and guarded hope. Every detail of Ty's return, the way the sunlight hits his face, the texture of his worn jacket, the sound of his boots on the gravel, becomes magnified, engraved in her memory. The world, for these minutes, contracts to this singular reunion, and the past years of pain are compressed into a single, encompassing moment. Her tears are quiet, almost invisible, but they mark the release of a burden she carried silently for too long. The universe has shifted slightly on its axis, and for the first time in years, the center of Amy's world is home again. The rest of the family senses the change before they see it. Jack, ever the stoic patriarch, steps out onto the porch, his posture taut, eyes searching for the truth in the air. When he sees Ty standing there, alive and whole, the lines of his face soften imperceptibly. The years of holding grief, of managing responsibility, of carrying the weight of a family in crisis, crack just enough to let a quiet flood of relief through. Jack's approach is measured, almost ritualistic. His hand rests on Ty's shoulder, a touch both gentle and commanding, signaling forgiveness, recognition, and acceptance. In that moment, Jack's embrace carries the authority of a man who has witnessed hardship and emerged ready to welcome the lost back into the fold. Lou enters the yard next, a whirlwind of emotion controlled only by the necessity of composure. Her anger, long held in check, wrestles with the softness that comes from seeing the impossible become real. She demands explanations with her eyes first, scanning Ty's face for answers she may not even deserve. Yet when the truth hits, the man before her has fought, survived, and returned, the anger dissolves into a torrent of relief and vulnerability. Lou's embrace is firm, searching, tentative, then certain. Every gesture communicates what words cannot, the fragility of life, the sanctity of family, and the power of presence over absence. Georgie approaches last, her maturity layered with the innocence of the girl who learned from Ty's guidance. The lessons of her childhood, the skills he instilled, and the quiet mentorship that shaped her life now converge in the shadow of his return. She doesn't rush into his arms, there is a pause, a negotiation of trust, a measurement of safety. Yet the tears that slip past her careful control betray the depth of her relief. Georgie's connection to Ty is not merely sentimental, it is a living proof that the seeds planted years ago have taken root, even in his absence. Her gratitude, her quiet apology for the lost years, manifests in a hug that is both delicate and affirming, a bridge between past and present, child and adult, loss and restoration. Inside, the ranch seems to breathe with them. Even Tim, whose outward facade is carved from rugged practicality, finds himself caught in the gravity of the moment. He steps forward with a mix of humor and awkwardness, the masculine bravado that hides vulnerability, and yet his trembling hands and tight throat betray the impact of Ty's presence. "Welcome back," he says, his voice clipped but sincere, a simple acknowledgement that carries decades of shared history, respect, and loyalty. Tim's acceptance, earned and deliberate, embodies the quiet strength of men who love without ostentation, who feel deeply in moments of rare emotional honesty. As the family gathers closer, the ranch itself becomes a silent witness to the tapestry of reunion. Conversations begin to flow, not rushed, not forced, but in the natural rhythm of people rediscovering their shared life. Stories tumble out, anecdotes long told in whispers and letters, now spoken aloud with laughter, relief, and gentle teasing. Amy shows Ty the small domestic details she preserved through years of longing, the photographs, the notes, the daily rituals that defined life at Heartland. Ty listens, memorizes, and responds, not as a guest, but as a man reclaiming the world he fought to return to. Lindy, sitting close to her father, asks the single question her heart has carried: "Will you stay?" The weight of this query is immeasurable, innocent yet profound. Ty's answer, simple and resolute, lands like a promise over the family. Each member, in their own way, exhales. The burden of absence, the uncertainty of hope, the ache of separation, all of it is softened by the certainty of presence. The ranch, the house, the land itself seems to acknowledge the shift. Life, once suspended in sorrow, begins to move forward with cautious optimism. Even in this moment of profound relief, the script of Heartland reminds us that life does not erase pain with a snap. The scars remain, quietly threading through the joy of reunion, grounding it in reality. Each character carries their memories, their fears, their growth, and their resilience. Yet the emotional current of this return carries them forward, signaling that healing, though gradual, is now possible. The family, standing together on the ranch, united again, embodies the unspoken truth: some returns are more than homecomings, they are the reclamation of hope, love, and the courage to begin again. Even after the initial hugs and tears, the ranch hums with a quiet, reflective energy. The reunion has shifted everything, yet the subtle rhythms of life at Heartland continue, threading through moments that feel sacred in their simplicity. Ty's presence reorders the atmosphere in ways words cannot capture. The air itself seems lighter, yet every glance, every gesture carries the weight of years lost. Amy stands nearby, her hand brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, eyes never leaving Ty as he moves through the yard. Every small motion, every tilt of his head, reminds her that this man, the father of her child, the partner of her heart, has survived a battle that none of them could have imagined. Lindy, perched on a fence rail with legs swinging, watches her father engage with the land she has known intimately yet now feels renewed through his eyes. She notices the way he studies the horses, the way he touches the reins with careful, deliberate respect, and something in her chest swells with pride. The child she was meets the adult he is, and in that meeting, a bridge forms between past grief and present possibility. She calls out, small and confident, "Daddy, look at this," and Ty kneels beside her, matching her excitement with gentle amusement, a quiet promise to engage in all the moments he missed. Jack lingers at the edge of the porch, observing the interplay with the patience and quiet authority that defines him. His voice remains calm, measured, yet the tenderness in his gaze betrays the depth of his relief. Every step Ty takes across the yard is a testament not only to physical recovery but to the resilience of the human spirit, the endurance of hope that refused to be extinguished. Jack's approval, though not shouted, radiates through his stance, the subtle nod, the hand resting briefly on Ty's shoulder, signaling to everyone that this return is genuine and permanent. Lou's presence adds complexity to the moment, her layered emotions a reflection of years spent as both guardian and silent witness to Amy's pain. She watches Ty, measuring him, scrutinizing the man who once left the family in uncertainty. Her initial protectiveness gives way to vulnerability, as she sees a man softened and strengthened by absence, a man who has fought battles she could only imagine. Her embrace, when it comes, is both fierce and tender, a tactile affirmation that the family's equilibrium, disrupted for so long, is now cautiously restored. The intensity of her emotions mirrors the internal storm she has carried, a storm finally allowed to dissipate in the presence of truth and survival. The interaction between Ty and Georgie provides a quieter, more contemplative beat. She steps close, her maturity guiding the careful balance between respect and affection. The years she spent without him become evident in the subtle hesitation before their hug, the way her fingers brush against his coat, the barely audible whisper of gratitude for lessons once imparted in his absence. Ty's response is patient and attentive, acknowledging not just the child she was, but the adult she has become. The emotional weight of this exchange is unspoken, but powerful, the acknowledgement that his mentorship planted seeds that grew even when he was gone. Tim, as always, anchors his emotions in practical expressions, but even his humor is tempered with the gravity of relief. His first words are gruff, "Good to have you back, kid," and the simplicity of the line belies the storm of feelings beneath. His hands, calloused from years of labor, extend in cautious but genuine welcome. The physicality of their interaction, an arm on the shoulder, a solid handshake, a shared pat on the back, communicates loyalty, endurance, and the quiet honor of men who measure love in deeds, not words. The dynamics between Tim and Ty encapsulate the subtle poetry of reunion, no grand declarations, only steadfast acknowledgement of survival, of return, of shared history. As the day unfolds, the family moves toward the familiar spaces of the ranch, and yet nothing feels ordinary. The barns, fences, and fields that once bore witness to absence now reflect the return of presence. Conversations ebb and flow naturally, laughter punctuating silence, and every shared glance carries the echo of years apart. Amy shows Ty the everyday details he missed, the morning routines, the small domestic victories, the patterns of life that continued despite absence. Each revelation, no matter how minor, is steeped in emotional resonance because it represents continuity, resilience, and the reclamation of normalcy after chaos. Even small moments carry symbolic weight. Ty's hands, once fragile in a hospital bed, now grip the reins and tools of the ranch with deliberate precision, each motion a testament to survival and renewed purpose. Lindy watches him closely, internalizing the rhythm of his presence, learning once again that life is both fragile and enduring. Amy's eyes follow every interaction, measuring safety, gauging trust, and allowing herself to relax into a cautious optimism she has not felt in years. These quiet, detailed beats demonstrate that reunion is not merely a single dramatic gesture, it is the accumulation of countless small moments that together rebuild the fabric of family life. By mid-afternoon, the energy at Heartland settles into a tender rhythm. Ty moves naturally among the family, participating in chores, checking on animals, engaging in light conversation that carries layers of unspoken emotion. Every laugh, every shared anecdote, every gentle tease becomes a subtle affirmation, the family is whole again. Yet beneath this surface harmony lies a recognition that healing is ongoing. Scars remain, both physical and emotional, but presence, attentiveness, and love now guide the path forward. The ranch itself seems to respond, as if the land, animals, and structures sense the reclamation of a long-missing heartbeat. As the sun begins its slow descent, the shadows stretch across the fields, bathing the scene in warm gold. The day's events, while ordinary in appearance, carry the extraordinary weight of restored connections. Ty's gaze meets Amy's briefly, a quiet acknowledgement that words are unnecessary. This moment, this reunion, speaks in its own language of hope, endurance, and love. Lindy rests beside him on the fence rail, Georgie stands near with calm pride, Jack surveys the scene with quiet satisfaction, Lou's hands relax, and Tim's subtle nods punctuate the day's reconciliations. Together, they form a tableau of family resilience, a living portrait of reunion that is both intimate and universal. As twilight descends on Heartland, the ranch takes on a soft, almost sacred glow. The day has been long, filled with reconnections, laughter, and quiet revelations, but now, in these shrinking moments of light, the weight of what has been lost and regained settles fully upon the family. Ty stands near the fence, the wind tugging gently at his hair, Lindy at his side, small fingers curled around his hand as though anchoring herself to the certainty of his return. Amy watches from the porch, a smile that is both cautious and radiant playing across her lips, the echo of years of worry melting into relief that is finally allowed to flourish. The rhythm of the ranch has resumed, but in a deeper, more resonant way, a heartbeat restored after years of suspenseful absence. The family gathers naturally, each person occupying their place in the constellation of home. Jack, stoic yet profoundly moved, surveys the scene with the quiet satisfaction of one who has weathered storms and sees the horizon finally clear. His hand on Ty's shoulder, earlier in the day, has given the unspoken permission for everyone else to feel, to relax, to let the tension of years unwind. Lou lingers close, still processing the storm of her own emotions, her embrace with Ty earlier a grounding point that reminds her that presence outweighs explanation, that the fragile threads of family life can be repaired with care, patience, and time. Georgie, standing a little apart, radiates calm maturity, her measured gestures a reflection of the lessons Ty imparted even in absence, lessons now carried forward with confidence and grace. Tim, as always, balances levity and gravity, his quiet humor punctuating the emotional intensity while underscoring the depth of loyalty that defines him. The evening meal becomes more than sustenance, it is a ritual of reunion. The table, brimming with familiar dishes and the small abundance of everyday life, is now infused with the weight of what was once absent. Laughter flows freely, stories of old memories tumble into conversation, and quiet moments of reflection punctuate the air like notes in a symphony. Amy moves fluidly, sharing memories with Ty, pointing out small details she preserved, gestures that are at once tender and revealing. Ty listens, memorizes, engages with curiosity and care, as if rediscovering not only his family but the rhythms of life he had missed. Each word, each gesture, becomes a brick in the reconstruction of their shared existence. Lindy, seated close to Ty, asks her simple, profound question once more, "Will you stay?" Her voice carries the weight of all the uncertainty, all the longing, all the years of waiting. Ty's response, deliberate and unwavering, is a quiet promise that settles over the family like a gentle tide, washing away lingering doubts. The affirmation of his presence transforms the evening from reunion to restoration, and the subtle tension that hung in the air for so long finally dissolves. The ranch exhales with them, the horses in the fields responding to the calm certainty that now defines their world. As darkness falls, the family moves outside to witness the first stars appear in the clear Heartland sky. The silence of the night amplifies the depth of emotion, each sound, a whisper of wind, the distant call of an owl, the soft shuffle of boots on the gravel, carrying significance. Ty and Amy find a quiet moment together, their hands brushing, fingers entwining, and for a fleeting instant, the world narrows to just the two of them, the long separation made real only by its absence. Lindy, Georgie, and the rest of the family watch with reverent awareness, recognizing that life is fragile, love is precious, and these small, intentional moments define the essence of home. Even the smallest gestures hold monumental meaning. Ty straightens a fence post, his movements precise yet gentle, a reflection of both physical recovery and emotional presence. Amy watches, feeling the reassurance that comes from seeing a man who has endured, who has returned, who is willing to participate fully in the life they have all fought to preserve. Lindy swings a leg over a horse, Ty beside her, offering guidance with quiet patience. Georgie adjusts a saddle strap, Tim carries a bucket of feed, Lou hums a faint tune as she watches the family in motion. Each action is ordinary in form, yet extraordinary in context, a reclamation of continuity, resilience, and the profound beauty of being together after years of suspense and longing. As the episode draws to a close, the camera of the mind captures the tableau of family, Ty and Lindy standing at the fence, Amy on the porch with a luminous smile, Jack observing with quiet pride, Lou's presence steady and protective, Georgie's maturity evident, and Tim's understated strength underscoring the bonds that define Heartland. The music, subtle and swelling, mirrors the emotional current that has carried the story, relief, hope, forgiveness, and the quiet promise of tomorrow. The narrative does not need grand gestures or fireworks, its power lies in the authenticity of emotion, the intimacy of moments, and the slow, deliberate rebuilding of connections once thought broken. The final image is simple, yet profoundly satisfying, the family together, small movements connecting them, hands brushing, laughter shared, the subtle rituals of daily life reaffirmed. Ty's return is no longer just an event, it is a living presence woven into the fabric of Heartland. Scars remain, questions linger, and the road ahead is uncertain, but the certainty of togetherness shines brighter than any doubt. As stars twinkle above, the viewer feels the resonance of catharsis, the ache of relief, the warmth of reunion, and the unspoken promise that this is only the beginning of a restored, resilient, and hopeful Heartland. Home is not a place, it is a practice, a daily commitment, a gentle weaving of presence, love, and continuity. And today, the Bordon family has resumed it, together, stronger, and ready to face whatever seasons lie ahead. The screen fades slowly on this quiet affirmation of human endurance, leaving the audience with the lingering ache of emotion, the comfort of hope, and the promise that even after years of absence, family, love, and resilience always find their way home.